I get asked all the time about the brushes that I use in Procreate, which is the iPad app that I use to draw everything for my art business. So I'm gonna show you all of my favorite brushes that are both native to the app and brushes that I have purchased or downloaded for free and added to my Procreate app that I use when I'm creating all of my artwork. You may have seen my recent video where I talk about how much I love Procreate. It is an iOS app. I have it on my iPad. It only costs $10 to download. Everything that I sell at one point or another has been in Procreate. I then use the files that I design and print them on all kinds of different products. And here I am today with a multi-million-dollar business based on all of my art I've created. I am very excited to talk about Procreate even more and show you in particular the types of brushes that I love to use and how you can buy brushes that don't already come in the app. So I have had Procreate on my iPad for 6 years now. So I have all kinds of stuff going on in here. I have brushes that came in the app that I've customized. I have custom brushes that I've bought. I have custom brushes that I bought and then customized myself. There's a lot going on in here, but I want to show you some of my favorite brushes that are native to the app first. So, number one, the brush that I used exclusively when I first got Procreate is, where is it? Monoline. So it is under Calligraphy and the brush name is Monoline. It is designed to be a basic straight line brush. So it's just, there's nothing going on as far as the brush tapering on the ends. The thickness is completely consistent. There is no texture to the brush. It is very straightforward and it is very useful. Monoline is also the brush that I have used to draw all of my coloring book pages. I have customized the Monoline brush for my coloring book. So I have Monoline 1, I have Monoline 1, Monoline 1 2, Monoline 1 1, Monoline 1 1 1 1, Monoline 1 1 1 1 1. Anyway, they're all different versions of the same Monoline brush. I should probably rename them so I don't have to like lose track of them all the time. But Monoline 1, my customized brush, just has a little bit of a taper on the end. So you can see in the custom screen here, you can adjust the taper on the end. So that just means that when I finish a stroke, it gets thinner at the end before the stroke completely stops. So that's really the only modification I've made to that one. I probably have adjusted the maximum size at some point, which just means that it can get larger and smaller than the parameters that come with the native monoline brush. And then I also do tend to constantly change the streamline, which I talked about in my previous video, but it basically just like smooths out your stroke as you draw. So depending on what you're drawing and what style you're going for, you may want a less streamlined or a more streamlined stroke. So I love Monoline. She is my bestie, but I pretty much only use the slightly customized version that I have. Another big one that I am constantly using is under inking, and it is called Dry Ink. There it is. Okay, so it's under inking and dry ink. Dry ink looks kind of fuzzy on the edges. It looks like it has a little bit of like a crackly texture, kind of spongy. And I love this brush because I like the taper on the end. So it like trails off when you make a stroke. It has a little bit of a taper at the beginning, which is a different shape, interestingly, so I did edit that in my customized version of it. I like that it has an imperfect edge with a lot of texture, because I love texture in my art. I think digital art can look really stiff and boring, so I try to give it as much life and character as possible, and I think the dry ink brush really helps with that. I also just like the way that it kind of feels when I draw with it, and it's one that I recommend trying out if you haven't before. But I have my own edits of dry ink. I probably have the most edits of this possible. I have the solid dry ink brush, which is one that has no inner texture but still has the fuzzy edge. I have even dry ink, which doesn't have a taper at the end. I have no pressure dry ink, so when you put extra pressure on your Apple Pencil, the width does not change. Normally with the dry ink brush, when you draw and you press harder, it gets thicker, and when you press more lightly, it is thinner. So I have a version of dry ink that doesn't do that. So I have modified it to my taste about 1,000,000 times. Let's see, who else do I love? I often use the airbrushing brushes in Procreate if I am blending, which is up at the top here. So that is if you are trying to generally like blend colors together or just like soften the texture of something. But I do frequently use the airbrushing brushes specifically for blending because it helps keep the blending like nice and gradual, which is usually what I am looking for. So that is like a category that I do use a lot, but most specifically for blending. Another brush that I really, really love and have used a lot in the past, don't use quite as much anymore, but I think it's very fun, is under Calligraphy for some reason. I really like the blotchy brush. So she is very fun because it has like a watercolor texture to it. And you can see that when you put more pressure versus less pressure, it changes the brush a lot. It also tapers off at the end and it has some streamline built in to smooth out the brush. And then another feature of this brush is layering. So it gets a lot darker when you layer 2 strokes on top of each other, or 3, 4, 5. Just keeps getting darker like watercolor would. So that is like a super fun, like realistic, true to life somewhat feature of this brush. So whenever I'm doing anything watercolor, I generally like to use this brush. And it has like a built-in texture that looks kind of like paper and like a nice little ink bleed edge. I want to show you how much variation you can get with this brush with the texture that's built into it. So if I color like the whole page, you can see the texture that is built in, like this kind of pattern underneath appears. And I think that's a really fun aspect of this brush in particular. So those are some of my go-to favorite brushes. And in addition to all of the awesome native brushes that come with the app, I have also bought several brushes over the years or have gotten free ones online. One website I would super highly recommend is Creative Marketplace. They do free downloads every Tuesday. So you can get Procreate brushes or fonts or other things like that you can import into Procreate. And I've gotten a lot of free brushes through there. There's all kinds of Procreate brushes out there. I have a pack of Procreate brushes that look like sewing stitches. So that's really fun because I'm going through a phase of drawing like quilted looking designs. And then you can get all kinds of other stuff. So like I have a pack of oil painting brushes that I used to create my new Primavera design. I have a pack of brushes that look like tile, so I have used those in creating my coloring book or in recently creating some of my bakery inspired sticker designs. So those are really fun, and there's just like endless possibilities with Procreate brushes. There's all kinds of stamps out there, so if you are more into like graphic design and you want to just stamp on their images and like arrange them and play with composition, that's something you can totally do on Procreate without having to draw anything. So brushes are really fun to explore, and there's a lot of options for free ones out there, so you don't necessarily have to invest a ton of money. It's also fun to get a new brush pack and be inspired by it to create a new piece of art, because sometimes you just don't feel like super inspired by anything else out there, but when you have kind of a new brush to play with, that can spark a whole new area of design and ideas. So that's been really fun for me to play with in Procreate. So those are the brushes that I love. If you have any other questions about Procreate, about the brushes that I love, please let me know. I am happy to answer all of your questions in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching till the end.